As a group has started off an idea, something like that sometime before. Okay. And for one reason or the other, it had lapsed. So it's something that I'm hoping that I could get enough people interested in, that we could get that up and running and create a sort of a self-employment or self-economic vitalization of Meow, rather than simply looking to move the people up. Because, and that it's not only the fishermen will make, but those who are selling and the bars, because you're creating room for people to stand up and to socialize for a bit, and in so doing help people to make a decent living.
Okay, that's great. I mean, the viewers of this video would not have heard our conversation before, but what struck me before we started recording is the extent of your humility and the extent to which you come from a background that seems to be strong in faith. So that faith, what role do you see that playing in your work as a senator, as you work as the coordinator for the constituency?
Faith. At the end of the day, whether we call it Jehovah, Christ, Allah, Muhammad, whatever, in my view, we all answer to a higher call at some point in time. And regardless of what religious persuasion you are. And at least for me, while I don't try to project onto people my values, my thing is to try to live life in a manner that allows you or encourages you to respond to a higher faith somewhere, a higher calling somewhere along the line. And as such, in my, if I want to call it political life, it sort of tempers me in terms of looking at the person next to me as no different from myself. I mean, people might look at me today and say, well, okay, he's a senator. My very first job was that as an office boy back in Petrotrin or Texaco in those days, washing bottles in a lab and sweeping the floor. I did that for 1 year and then went as an apprentice. Went through an apprenticeship pretty much as people who have gone to John D or San Fernando Tech and all of that. And from that I kind of came to the understanding of how important every single job is. If I were to remove the cleaner from this building, what happens? Take 2 weeks. Some of us might like to think of those at the top as being the more critical. But in my view, it is every little piece helps. Right? In the political arena, the foot soldier is just as important as the area manager, it's just as important as the campaign manager, it's as important as the MP or the coordinator, it's just as important as the other person. And anytime we pull one of those pieces out, right? It's almost as if pulling away the leg of a force, something held up on 4 or so on. If you pull one out, it will collapse. So that what I've tried to do is, at least as I carry about myself, is to basically keep that about me. I mean, in all things, titles and all of those things will come and go based upon the station in life. But the essence of who you are will always be there. And in the quiet moments, that is what is going to hold each of us. I mean, one of the things I would like to share though, which is, if I ever had doubts of why I'm involved in politics, and I anytime anybody asks me about it, I always refer to it as that and it marks for me, and not that I want to become partisan at this point, but it marks for me one of the things that not only have me continue in politics, but also in the PNM. And that is that back in the 90s, I don't know if people might remember late 80s, 90s, where in Tobago we had a lot of talk of AIDS basically destroying Tobago. And in the early 90s, a nephew of mine became HIV positive, and I was spending gobs and gobs of money on my family in terms of buying medication, retrospective. And one of the things I came to understand and I have seen happen was that in the PNM planning for the future recognized that if it did not do something about that, that HIV will have destroyed this country in generations after generation. Right? And not only did they put it into their manifesto and documentation, but actually did something about it. And that when they came back into power, that was one of the things that they have done. And if you look over the period, you'll recognize, and in the last budget, the last two budgets that I was part in the debate of, I spoke to it because I want to keep reminding the public, had it not been for that intervention, HIV would have been on the top of our agenda in terms of the impact it's having on our society. Now we almost take it that people not really dying as much and you don't hear much about it. But it was a particular intervention, right? And in my St. Vincent de Paul work, you find that we have had a number of people that we have been used to be trying to help and struggled to get funding to help. Now we are now able to see them living a lot more comfortably because they are now able to get the treatment through our government program. So, and that's one where, I've seen both sides, where how it was before and how it was after the intervention. Right? I mean, it's now almost 15, 16 years now, and the nephew of mine is strong and healthy, still alive.
That's excellent. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that very personal story, Senator. We know that you're very busy. Thank you very much for your time. You're definitely a man of faith, a very humble man, and a man who is committed to service and making this country a better place. Senator, thank you.
Welcome.